You know, when I first heard about Tim Pool, I was like, oh, just like another dumb skeptic. And now he's one of the most influential political figures on the internet. I shit you not. With like a combined total like 70 to 80 million views between all of his YouTube channels every single month. That's a lot. And I've talked about Tim Pool plenty. I'm going to talk about Tim Pool more. We're not done. We're not even close to being done. So Tim Pool's basic Tim Pool's basic shtick is that he's wrong about everything. It's actually astonishing. He doesn't even have like the intelligence necessary to aptly criticize some of the more pernicious elements of the left. Everything that he does. I recently saw. I think this perfectly sums up Tim Pool to my knowledge. He still calls himself a liberal, despite the fact that everything he says, does, and believes is pretty far right. He has another secondary channel that he considers, or at least kind of wants to be, a more legitimate journalistic outfit, And that journalistic outfit covered some of the BLM protests. And the comment section was full of people saying that Ahmaud Arbery wasn't jogging and George Floyd died of COVID-19. And they were Tim Pool fans. Even a slight deviation from the far-right politics that Tim Pool typically engages in leads people towards that. And Tim Pool did make multiple videos on Ahmaud Arbery as well. Very classically liberal thing to do. If you look through Tim Pool's content, I mean, he covers basically everything that's happening. And by cover, I mean he reads an article somebody else wrote while occasionally stopping to look to the camera and say, see, this is how far the Democrats / the crazy left / Biden / the progressives have gone. And that's pretty much a Tim Pool video. But I saw this title and I just couldn't resist. From a Breitbart article as well. A liberal Tim Pool, just pulling from the most objective sources. Army goes full-on far left, condemns MAGA as racist. Let's do it.
Civil War. Yeah, it gets talked about a whole lot.
Tim Pool, I'm supposed to be making fun of you. Tim Pool, you're the one who talks about it. Nobody else talks about it. You're the one talking about it. Every fucking video from this guy, he talks about how a civil war it was just on the brink. We're on the brink of a civil war. Anything. I guarantee, new video on the black Batwoman, civil war. Parasite winning the Oscar, civil war. Chaz, civil war. It's always something.
But I saw this story and I thought it was very important to add context or, just to keep people informed about what's happening, but also to make some predictions. U.S. Army message, make America great again, Columbus Day, are signs of white supremacy. Now, I don't want to overstate this. I guess somebody sent an email out to members of the military that said, saying things like make America great again is covert white supremacy.
True. Very true.
So here's why I want to talk about this. Look, first of all, Joe Biden is absolutely going to start adopting far left policies from, say, the likes of Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez.
Hey, that's my argument.
We can expect more of that after 2024. And if Joe Biden wins 2020, we can expect a lot more of it. But here's what I think.
Oh, that's so cute. Did you hear how he phrased that? His initial thing was we can expect a lot of that after 2024. Like Trump's going to win in 2020. That's so funny. How are those polls doing, Trump? Yeah. It's like pretty far. Though weren't Hillary's polls also doing great in 2016? No. This is a very, very, very common misunderstanding. That is definitely not the case. Even reputable polling outlets had a 80-20 in favor of Hillary Clinton at the time of election. It was never this far apart, like not even close. Also, if we want to look at like battleground states, it's actually like insane how high. I'm pretty sure in the 14 swing states that we took a look at, I always forget what the swing states are, but in the 14 swing states that we took a look at, 12 of them were leaning towards Biden. It's actually pretty fucking wild. Anyway, right now, like I'm pretty sure I did a video on this, but yeah, right now the math is pretty heavy in our favor. Yeah. When Texas and Florida are both swing states, you've gone a real wacky direction. Your face cam occupies half the graph, bro. Jesus Christ, you can fucking Google it yourself, okay? picky, wanting to see the actual elements I'm throwing up on screen so it's not just for my benefit. Jeez, what entitled these viewers are today.
I've had conversations with people about whatever civil conflict would look like, and you need to understand that even within the army, not everybody is a conservative. This is something I found really interesting because growing up.
Remember, Tim Pool is supposed to be a liberal who's just criticizing the Democratic Party. So I want you to imagine this video coming from a liberal who's just criticizing the Democratic Party, okay?
In Chicago, the mentality is people who join the military are all far right, all conservative, flag waving, make America great again, right? They're not. There are many people who are in the military who are liberal, leftist. There was a famous photo of some guy, I can't remember what branch he was in or what it was, but he was holding up a sign saying, like in his hat hidden, saying communism will win. He got in trouble, I guess. But here we can see there are people in the army or associated to a certain degree who agree with the far left ideology. So what happens when you're split down the middle? I don't know. I'm not going to tell you, but I'll read the story from Breitbart.
I wonder what far left positions they're referring to here.
U.S. Army email sent after the 4th of July to its military and civilian members included a graphic which claimed saying the phrase "Make America Great Again" is evidence of white supremacy. The graphic listed other behaviors it deemed evidence of white supremacy, including celebration of Columbus Day, the denial of white privilege, talking about American exceptionalism, and saying there is only one human race.
Now, here's my hot take as a far left type. It is true. All of those behaviors are indicative of or evidence to white supremacy. Celebration of Columbus Day? I don't know, maybe like in a super abstract, like cultural adherence to white supremacist traditions, but not really an inherent, like individual thing. Denial of white privilege is a pretty easy one. Talking about American exceptionalism, that doesn't have to be in a racial context. And saying there's only one human race, So, here's my hot take. Are you ready for it? Get ready for it, okay? You can have a nuanced academic discussion on these behaviors and traits and whether or not they're evidence of white supremacy, but you can't have them at a pamphlet distributed at an army base. You can't. Are you kidding me? It doesn't even have to do with it being military. Like, these aren't academics. This isn't like some sort of hyper woke progressive space. This isn't a company with a very, very strict and progressive corporate culture. This is the military. So invariably, when you send out a pamphlet containing stuff like this just looks like lunatic far left bullshit to the average person, And I would even argue, by the way, if I for some reason was talking about American because America is exceptional in many ways. We have the best food, we have the best music, we have the best people. Our land is the best. Because we had to kill a lot of people to get it. America is super cool. Honestly, I don't know why we have other countries. If somebody came up to me and they were like, wow, you are being white supremacist, and they were being unironic with it, I would feel like, well, maybe they've lost the plot a little bit. Take it away, Tim.
That's right. If you say there's only humans, that's apparently white supremacist. Congratulations. The graphic listed other behaviors. All right, then I'm sorry. The email invited all soldiers and Department of the Army civilian personnel to attend the U.S. Army's Operation Inclusion seminars on July 8th and 9th at the Redstone Arsenal Army Base in Alabama. The email was sent by Cheney P. Pickard from the U.S. Army Aviation and Missile Center using an official government email. The message named the U.S. Army Equity and Inclusion Agency and Assistant Secretary of the Army, Manpower and Reserve Affairs as authors. Okay, there it is. The Army has an Equity and Inclusion Agency.
Okay. Equity and inclusion literally just means anti-racist.
I don't know how I would feel if they had, say, like a communion and confirmation agency or affirmation of faith in the Lord Savior Jesus Christ agency. Maybe they do. Fine, whatever. I'm not.
It must be getting really hot up there in the skull cap. What the fuck is he talking about? not being racist is a religion? What the fuck does that mean? Equity and Inclusion Agency literally just means they're trying to prevent discriminatory behavior within the military. Like, I would assume? I would guess that is probably its responsibility. I have no idea what that has to do with religion. I bet he thinks he's come up with an incredibly salient point here. I know you think right now that Tim Pool's stupidity is the punchline, but we're not even close to the punchline, okay? Because we're looking at the Breitbart article, okay? We haven't actually looked at the real information.
Big fan of religious branches or agencies of the military. Why are we paying for that?
What?
Rep Mo Brooks,
What does
who
that
caught
mean?
wind of the email, blasted the deeply offensive and racist U.S. Army Operation Inclusion content and demanded the firing and prosecution of Army personnel.
Wait, doesn't the Army literally have chaplains in its ranks? So that if you've been wounded and you're dying on a fucking medic bed, the military actually pays. The military literally pays for religious services for people of all faiths. I'm pretty sure, whether you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, or whatever, they keep like a lot. They have like a, religious people on reserve. They're officers. Like some of them, right? Like it's not even just like this low level thing. Like you can be in a official religious position, be in a commanding role in the military to an extent.
Who used government resources to distribute political propaganda. Brooks said the email is in clear violation of the Hatch Act, which bans government personnel from engaging in political activity while at work.
And the military paying for religion is a violation of the First Amendment against separation of church and state. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. The First Amendment just says that Congress shall make no effort establishing one religion above others. If the military makes an effort to just provide religious services for like all faiths, if you die, if it's like a non-denominational thing, I think that's good. I mean, I'm not religious, but like, it's probably a good thing for religious people that they can, have their shit done properly when they die. It probably means a lot to them. Yeah. If it was just Christians, then I would agree. But if it's done for plenty of folks, then.
Now here's the graphic. This is a truly sight to. This is a sight to behold. Let me pull this up. Now it's kind of hard to see, but you can see if you look very closely. There's things like expecting BIPOC to teach white people. That's white supremacy. Believing we are post-racial. That's white supremacy. Saying, but we are all one big human family is white supremacy. I kid you not. Then there's overt white supremacy, socially unacceptable, like hate crimes and stuff. That we get. This thing is loaded. All lives matter as white supremacy.
You know what's really funny? Tim Pool is kind of proving the point here that there are a bunch of behaviors that contribute to white supremacy that are deemed socially acceptable because he's literally going over these behaviors and saying, well, this is fine, It's real. So now some of these are really stupid. I'm not defending this chart. Calling the police on black people, like, okay. Now, maybe like calling the police on black people because they're black, but like, you need to call police on a black person, like, color blindness, white silence, white parents self-segregating neighborhoods and schools, like stuff like that is like so it's so ambiguous and so difficult to quantify, that kind of stuff, But then you have stuff like mass incarceration, racist mascots, respectability politics, paternalism. You can make a stronger arguments for those things. This basically just looks like kind of one of those dumb viral images on Tumblr, You know what I'm talking about? Remember those days? Remember Tumblr before they banned all the porn and everyone left the site? Dropped it like a hot fucking potato?
Prioritizing white voices. This Make America Great Again. There it is.
That's true. I'll defend that. Yeah, if you're a Trump supporter, you're either racist or okay with racism. Fucking Tim Pool did multiple videos on like just asking questions over whether or not Ahmaud Arbery was some sort of mega secret criminal who deserved to be lynched in the middle of the street during broad daylight by people who were found by the courts to have said the N-word both before and after the death of Ahmaud Arbery. Which, does lend a little bit of credence to the idea that it might have been a racially motivated attack and not one justified by the circumstances of the case. So, yeah, I'm not too keen on Tim Pool's threshold for whatever racism means.
Make America Great Again. You say that, you're a bigot. Well, of course, we knew that one, huh?
Yeah.
The seminars are part of a listening tour for the Army's Operation Inclusion, led by the U.S. Army's Inclusion Advisory Team. Disturbingly, The Army chose Redstone Arsenal as the first location on a tour that will cover all Army 4-star commands, Brooks added. Brooks has sent a letter to U.S. Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy demanding an investigation. Numerous Redstone Arsenal employees have expressed outrage to me about the U.S. Army blatantly violating the Hatch Act and, in effect, labeling patriotic Americans white supremacists and racists if they say or do dozens of things outlined in the U.S. Army email.
Anyone who describes themselves as a patriotic American is a white supremacist. I don't care. Anyone who self-describes as a patriotic American is absolutely a white supremacist. Absolutely. That's the easiest call I've ever made in my life. Now, I could let Tim Pool go for a while here without interrupting him, and that sounds like a lot of fun. So first off, let's take a look at this Hatch Act that keeps being referred to. In addition, all military members, including National Guard and Reserve Forces, are prohibited from wearing military uniforms at political campaign events. That's pretty nice. The Hatch Act allows most federal employees to actively participate in political activities on their own time and outside the federal workplace. There are significant restrictions on fundraising. And not engage in activities that associate the DoD with any partisan political campaigns or elections, candidate, cause, or issue. The limitations of participation can be found in DoD Directive 1344.10, which we are definitely not going to read. Oh, but they provide a summary. How nice. Members of the armed forces who are on active duty are permitted to express their personal opinions of political candidates, make monetary contributions, sign a petition, and attend political events as a spectator. Members on active duty may not participate in partisan activities, such as soliciting or engaging in partisan fundraiser activities, serving as the sponsor of a partisan club, or speaking before a partisan gathering. Okay, so now let's talk about this. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. It's going to be a little quiz question, okay? We can all learn, all right? This is going to be sort of a democratic exercise, okay? So, guys, based on what we've seen so far from this Breitbart article, what is the impression that you have gotten from this letter being sent out demanding people attend this progressive event saying you're racist if you do this or that? Do you think this is a fairly irresponsible? Do you think this is probably like an irresponsible, like cringe? Or do you think it's like, fine, people are, well, we know they're overreacting, but like, what do you think? 1, if you think it's cool. 2, if you think it's cringe. I'm seeing mostly 2s. Some 1s, some 2s. I'd say it's mostly 2, maybe 70-30. There we go. Now, the irresponsible and the people are overreacting are probably pulling from the same voter pool there. Splitting the vote, baby. Oh, you guys just wanted to make a penis with the poll. I see. That's what you do every time. We need to make it so that polls done in this chat don't actually display results until after the vote tallies are counted, because you people are not helpful. Well, don't worry, folks. I have something helpful. Context. Here's an actual news organization, albeit a shitty one, reporting on the exact same piece of information. So the way Tim described it suggested that the military sent out this email demanding all its members not say MAGA or they're racist. Let's hear what actually happened. The U.S. Army is investigating how a handout distributed on a base in Alabama initially included a description that the phrase MAGA was a form of covert white supremacy and therefore racist, which it says was sent out in error and immediately recalled. On July 6 at Redstone, officials distributed a handout to personnel that included 2 unapproved pages that were sent out in error and immediately recalled, Amy spokeswoman Cynthia Smith said in a statement. The slides were to promote the Army's so-called listening tour under a program it calls Operation Inclusion, a new initiative to improve diversity and racial inclusion amongst the military. So on and so forth. So let's be perfectly clear. This was not the military disseminating far-left propaganda. This was one military base immediately recalling a pamphlet after 2 pages of that pamphlet were deemed inappropriate for the advocacy for the political... Civil war incoming, baby! It's top. Boogaloo is happening. It's it. Far left, far right. They're going to duke it out. Military bases are going to erupt in flames. This is unbelievable. This is worthy of a fucking 250,000 view YouTube video where we talk about how civil war is he literally, the first words in this video were civil war. That's not a joke. That's the first thing he said. Now even the military has gone far left. Army has gone on full far left. How can anybody call this guy a fucking journalist? No wonder he's reading from Breitbart, because Breitbart doesn't mention the fact that the military immediately recalled it, that the military deemed it inappropriate, that it was at one base, and that it was handing out pamphlets. Now, from what it looks like, this little event that is being organized, this little diversity and inclusion event, is no more a violation of the Hatch Act than any other similar push for inclusivity in the military, which has been going on for decades because, as it turns out, the efficiency of the military does not give a fuck about your racist bullshit, Tim Pool. The military wants to be racially inclusive because if it isn't, it gets less soldiers. You see? It's like that old quote from 1984, you know? How the irrationality of authoritarianism is always kept in check by the threat of your militaristic neighbors. 2 + 2 may well equal 5 in your schools, but on the battlefield, 2 + 2 must equal 4. And that's what we're dealing with right now. The military does not have time for your horseshit. The military was out there in large part against public approval, sending black folks out to die for America during World War II. And even in wars prior, you know, the Union had black soldiers fighting alongside it. And in order to do those things, the United States military had to engage in programs which would today probably be referred to as diversity and inclusion programs. Now, would I love to be a fly? Yeah, the latter half of the Civil War. Would I love to be a fly on the wall at some of those meetings back during the Civil War? The real Civil War, not the one Tim Pool keeps crowing about. Fuck me, that would be funny. Like the recently freed slaves and the Union soldiers, like, well, they can hold guns. I don't know. But the point is, the military really does not have time for your nonsense when it comes to stuff like that. When the military is bolstering racism, it's against the racism of other people it's about to kill. Like, you know, all the anti-Muslim racism that was found to be a specific part of an indoctrination program held by the military following 9/11, you know? But nowadays, that's not as politically expedient. Whatever the case may be, the fact of the matter is that Tim Pool is either through negligence or deliberately, omitting massive portions of this story so he can over-exaggerate its importance and frame this as evidence that the military is going far left. Because Tim Pool, who is... Well, I won't call Tim Pool a fascist, but I will say that constantly overestimating and subsequently underestimating the presence of interior and exterior threats, believing there must always be a plot against you, is a pretty important component of fascism. That Tim Pool has to constantly be chasing shadows across the wall. The military literally made a push for Japanese enrollment in the military at the same time they set up the internment camps. Yeah, and didn't they do really well in the Pacific Theater? Was it the Native Americans or the Japanese who did insanely well in the Pacific Theater during World War II? Like, weren't they the most decorated regiment in the entirety of the American military during World War II? It was the Navajo Codebreakers, right? That was the Native Americans, yeah. Yeah, the Japanese did really, really well, too. Because the Japanese weren't sent to the Pacific Theater, yeah, because that would be kind of a conflict of interest, at least in their minds, you know. Also, generally speaking, if you're going to send your people to kill a foreign army, you want to make sure that they can't speak the same language as the people who you just shot. That's generally a bad idea. When you shoot a man and you see him like screaming and dying over there, you don't want to understand him when he's calling out for his mom, you know? Just classic military tactics, you know? Some people have actually posited that the tendency for countries to all teach English these days is actually a great deterrent against warfare and American imperialism, at least in the traditional sense, military imperialism. It makes it easier to engage in economic imperialism, though, because they speak our language, which means we can trade with them more easily. But I heard that said once. I don't know if I have like hard data on it, but yeah. A little morbid, but you know. That's it. We just got to teach everyone on Earth English, and then we won't fight because it'll be too sad for us to fight. Anyway, yeah, the point that I'm laboriously trying to arrive to here is that Tim Pool is if Tim Pool were an actual journalist, doing this would get him disbarred from his profession. He is either omitting a massive amount of information, he is or he is being so negligent as to avoid it. Oh, this is nice. The Army did not specifically mention the Make America Great Again phrase in its statement, long used by Trump and its supporters, only saying the Army does not condone the use of phrases that indicate political support. So that's nice. Like again, like the military isn't embroiled in this culture war shit. But he'll try to frame it as though they are. You'll notice that because I'm a responsible person who doesn't lie to you for money, like Tim Pool does, I have never made a video where I try to frame the military as being this hyper far-right organization. The military, I mean, that's a big deal here in America. We have by far the largest military on Earth, and at no point over the history of this channel have I tried to embroil this organization in, I guess, the culture war. And the reason why I do that is because the military and its internal culture is complicated. And I think that invoking and ascribing political opinion to that culture is something that should be done very carefully and very lightly. But I am not Tim Pool.
You call it political, I call it religious. Fine, I don't care. Shut it down.
What the
I'll tell you
fuck?
what, man. The U.S. Army has an Office of Inclusion and Equity. Yeah, what do you think happens when the morality police come to your neighborhood? Do you think the Insurrection Act will protect you? Do you think the National Guard will protect you?
What?
No. We are in very strange times, I might add. And
so I think what he's suggesting is because the military has an Office of Diversity and Inclusion, that means the military is going to roll down American streets finding Trump supporters and killing them. What the fuck is he going on about? How can anyone believe this fucking guy is a liberal? Are you kidding me?
you have fanatics who are tearing down statues. And these fanatics are a part of the army.
What? Everyone is a part of the army. Anyone can enlist. Is there some evidence? Wait, I'm sorry. The statue tearing down has taken place in the past few weeks. Do you have any evidence that any of the people who engaged in that behavior are off-duty military officers? Yeah. What are we talking about? Again, this is why Tim Pool talks about Civil War so much, because he's trying to prime people for one. He's trying to, provide all of you the necessary emotional information that you need to prepare for one. Tim Pool is legitimately one of the most sinister and dangerous people, like, currently engaged in political discourse. This guy is fucking crazy.
Brooks added McCarthy to answer the following. 1. Who within the Department of Army is responsible for the creation of the email and document? Who within the Department of the Army approved the email and document? Pursuant to the creation and approval of the document.
So this is literally just somebody asking about
violation of the Hatch Act or held accountable for their actions. If it is found that a violation of their illegal conduct. Look, the office of...
Copies of the letter also went to President Donald Trump, Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and Attorney General William Barr. Holy fuck, these people are such Karens. One army base immediately recalls the last 2 pages of one document, one pamphlet that it printed, and this guy's like, "Excuse me, do you have any idea the depth to which you violated the constitutional rights of this country? I have provided you this email, and I have sent copies of it to Donald Trump himself, as well as General Attorney William Barr." Like, holy shit. They're like, "I want to talk to the manager of America." These people are Hey, who's the fucking morality police, dude? Holy shit. 2 fucking pamphlet pages get added, then recalled. These people literally run to the fucking the president of the United States.
Of equity and inclusion is itself a political statement. Copies of the letter.
Wait.
Is itself a... Look, the Office of Equity and Inclusion is itself a political statement.
Nice job, dumb fuck. The difference is, it's not a partisan political statement. It's a statement which is essential to the functionality of the military. You know what else is a political statement? We love America. We serve America. Those are political statements. In fact, those are probably the most overtly and obviously political statements imaginable. How can you get more political than literally dedicating your life, laying it down on the line, dedicating 4 years of your life to serving the political interests of a country? Like, that is the most political statement imaginable. The difference is, the political statements that are acceptable are ones that are usually go hand in hand with the functionality of the military. Inclusion and diversity are tools necessary to allow the greatest possible number of people to feel comfortable in the military, which allows them to fight better. This is the exact... We've been doing this for over 100 years. This is not anything new. We did this in the fucking 1800s. Diversity and inclusion is just another word for preventing discrimination from getting in the way of the military's business. But you, Tim Pool, are okay with discrimination getting in the way of the military's business because you are not, as you so claim, a liberal. You are instead a dumb fuck, and a very bad one at that.
Copies of the letter also went to President Donald Trump, Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and Attorney General William Barr, among others. The Army confirmed it sent out the email, but claimed it was sent in error and immediately recalled. The Army has initiated an internal investigation to find out what happened.
There we go. At the end of the article, literally 2 sentences, the last 2 sentences of the originally typed article, they mentioned that it was recalled and sent in error. There we go. Okay. Do you think he's going to change his rhetoric at all now that he realizes that the Army didn't do this intentionally and that it was not, in fact, the product of some deliberate effort to spread far-left propaganda?
On July 6, 2020.
No, he just reads right over it.
Inclusion listening tour handout.
He just reads right over it.
You know what? I'm just so sick of the pathetic inability to call this out. You want to call it the email? What is Project Inclusion? What do these things mean? They're overtly political. Come on.
Why
the whole
is
thing's a violation of the head.
Has he always sounded this unhinged? I'm not joking. He actually sounds crazy. Like actually, like Alex Jones tier. Has he always sounded this bad?
Act. We have religious groups operating as sanctioned agencies within the Army. Spare me.
We do. But literally, though, we literally do that, though. As we discussed earlier, you don't even know. You don't know anything. It's all culture war to you. That's it. All you see is like the woke left in everything, and that's the only political analysis you're capable of engaging in.
They say it included 2 unapproved pages that were sent out in error and immediately recalled. Let me stop and just point out how stupid this is. The entire project should be dismantled because
Do you know anything about it? You know anything about Project Inclusion?
Toss a coin to your streamer, oh, viewers plenty.
Do you like anything whatsoever? Or are you just like assuming that it's bad? Do you have any idea what its contents are?
Clearly, the slides they sent out represent their political ideology, whether they tell you about their documents or not. If they're going...
Whoa, you don't know that. What if those 2 slides at the end were included in error? What if the person who was putting that together just threw together some shit at the end that didn't go through approval, and then it was immediately retracted, and none of this is a big deal? And it's not some sort of secret fucking conspiracy to provide... Dude, if it was a secret conspiracy, why would they have put those there in the first place? Again, the constant over- and underestimation of the threats your society face. So this is at once a threat so great that they are disseminating far-left political values into the military such that the morality police are going to be marching through Times Square arresting Trump supporters. But also, this is one military base with one pamphlet that was immediately recalled, and they weren't even smart enough to avoid showing the mask off like far-left shit on the bottom 2 pages. Which is it? Here, U.S. Army Project Inclusion. New initiative to improve diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are all things that liberals are supposed to believe in. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are all liberal values. Across the force and build cohesive teams, as directed by the Secretary and the Chief of Staff of the Army. Oh, damn! Interesting. As directed by the Secretary and Chief of Staff of the Army. But it said that that pamphlet was printed out by a different group, meaning the people who are organizing Project Inclusion are not the people who provided that pamphlet advertising it. So there's actually no provable direct link between the organizers of this project and the people who presented that pamphlet. Oh. Wow, are you going to talk about that, Tim? To identify practices that inadvertently discriminate. Dude, we could literally have a segregated military right now. Like literally, like black and white divisions. And the Army institutes an Office of Diversity and Inclusion to desegregate it. And Tim Pool would be talking about how this is a far left woke culture. Make no mistake. The language of Tim Pool is echoed in the language of every bigot and every reactionary and every segregationist and every anti-abolitionist and every slaver and every colonialist from history past, okay? This language, that any step whatsoever towards a future which is better for minorities is a future where the woke police will be marching down the streets to kill you. Every single time. Unquestionably. It's the same language. If we give them just a little bit more rights, us white men will be destroyed by the oncoming woke tide. It's a very, very, very common rhetorical strategy for weak and easily fearful people.
Going to step in and say, we are doing this, and here's the document. Oh, it's just the document that violates the Hatch Act, not the entirety of the program itself?
Seems so.
No. Clearly, the document represents the program they're enacting. Why would removing the document have anything to do with anything?
Because the program, because we literally looked over the code, the Hatch Act, and it said that service members are allowed to attend political events, even if they're partisan, as long as they don't speak at them or contribute to those events directly. And the pamphlet was making a prescriptive argument, which means it could conceivably violate the Hatch Act. If you're so upset about it, dude, you can file a fucking lawsuit.
It's so pathetic. Look, man, Joe Biden is going to be adopting policy agenda, caught stealing agendas again. Here's what they say. Joe Biden is no stranger to plagiarizing.
Townhall.com. Damn, Tim. Factual reporting mixed. Damn, Tim. For a liberal, you sure do rely on a lot of really wacky sites.
And stealing from others. It has been part of his MO for years. It just so happens that Bernie Sanders is his latest victim. Whatever, man. Look, I don't care if he's stealing.
He's so mad. This actually leads me to believe that Tim Pool isn't a grifter. He actually is like a 30 IQ, like fasci, you know? Like he's actually like he wakes up every morning in a cold sweat because he dreamed that he was the statue being torn down, you know? That he was 40 feet of marble in the middle of, you know, a town hall, and he was the one being torn. He wakes up, like it's actually like really getting to him, you know?
The issue is that he's adopting far left policies. We have this cartoon right here on the right, and you can see it. Joe Biden leaning to the far left. So when you have the army...
Oh, look, yeah, wait. Sorry, we missed that. Look at the most popular article recommended here. That's really good. This is a great opportunity to destroy academia. Did you guys see Trump's tweet earlier when he's like, people who come out of the academia are far left. We should take away their tax benefits. That's really good. You know, that age-old... Oh, God. Guys, remember after my debate with Stryker and Alsup, there were literal neo-Nazis on 4chan who were like, we need to stop relying on studies. All the studies from the past 20 years suspiciously lean left. We're going to have to abandon studies in favor of rhetoric. There is no difference in this respect between your average neo-Nazi and your average Republican. Their war on academia is so fucking sad. Why are all these educated people disagreeing with us? It must be the education that's biased. Dave Rubin recently praised Bolsonaro because he was like, well, I don't really know what Bolsonaro's doing, but I heard he's getting rid of SJW stuff in schools, so... Bolsonaro used the power of the state to literally shut down progressive-leaning major programs in university, in addition to him being a fascist, but that's what Dave Rubin chooses to focus on. It's the culture war language, dude. Like, these people will literally accept, like, brown shirts marching down the street with, like, guns, like, fucking running into Jew houses to pull out the Jews and shoot them in the street, as long as this could be framed in opening the libs somehow. There is a deep intellectual sickness in the right. This is why I refuse to believe there is any such thing as a right-leaning academic, because they have to phrase all of their prescriptions in the language of the culture war. They can't actually go any farther than that. That's all they can do. Everything, even Trump does this. It's all Gamergate logic. It's all Gamergate logic the whole way through. It's all anti-SJW bullshit, all the way up to the very tippy top of conservative intelligentsia. There are no conservative academics. There are no there are conservative academics, I'm sorry, I should say. There are no conservative intellectuals. Far be it for me to conflate those two things.
Putting out documents that claim Make America Great Again is white supremacy. And you call that out. Hey, whoa, about that. but you're ignoring the fact that they have an equity and inclusion agency and they're doing tours about equity.
So yeah, I don't know why this is so difficult to find information on. It was either formed in 2011 or sometime between 2011 and 2019. The PDF document said 2014. Whatever the case may be, it would be the burden would be on Tim Pool to demonstrate that they are using this office to push some kind of political agenda. But honestly, again, this is just this is just Tim Pool fighting against the wind here. Because it is in the interest of the U.S. military to desegregate and to engage in diversity and inclusion. And it's in the interest of conservatives or far-right people like Tim Pool to oppose that. So to him, what is most effective for the military is a political bias. He's not actually capable of distinguishing between those two things, you know? It would be the same way that like a radical, like anti-scientific like Luddite, you know, would think that there's a political bias in like trying to develop new medical equipment or something. So to run up to a doctor and be like, you're biased, this is a publicly funded institution, it would be like really, really weird, you know, for the doctor, for the medical technician. But from the perspective of someone like Tim Pool, it makes perfect sense because he's railing not only against progressivism, but efficiency.
And inclusion, and Joe Biden himself is stealing from Bernie Sanders.
What does this have to do with
the whole
Joe
thing's
Biden?
Going far left, man. When you have Republican senators that are defending Bubba Wallace and the whole, you know, noose thing,
what does this?
The entire country has,
dude. Wasn't it actually a noose? No hate crime was committed. The noose had been in place as early as last fall, the FBI said. Holy fuck, the FBI? Man, they really got into it. All right. So people just tweeted about it?
You know, noose thing. The entire Biden himself is stealing from Bernie Sanders. The whole thing's going far left, man. When you have Republican senators that are defending Bubba Wallace and the whole, you know, noose thing,
I would be willing to bet the Republican senators he's referring to, I notice his non-specificity here is probably to play his own defense, probably were in support of it when it was believed that that noose was tied specifically to harass the black NASCAR driver, but then when it was found that that was not the case, they didn't. That would be my guess.
The entire country has just lurched so far to the left, you will wake up one day not recognizing it. Now, some people have said to me that, you know, because I've been a bit pessimistic, because like, what is Donald Trump going to accomplish? If the Republicans sweep Section 230 reform can restore free speech in the public sphere.
Nice meme. Oh, he's so delusional. Trump, the 230 reform would destroy the internet as we know it, including you, Tim Pool. Tim Pool, you do realize that your shindig online would immediately, like, there's no way Google would keep you. Also, how internet poisoned do you have to be to believe that shutting down YouTube channels and Twitter accounts will be what allows Trump to win in 2020? There are so many things stupid about this. I had Bastiat on a little while ago to talk about the consequences of removing Section 230, but essentially the gist of it is, if we get rid of it, there is no reason whatsoever why platforms like Twitter and YouTube would ever allow any political discourse. Like, there's no reason whatsoever for them to do that. It would be like the death of politics and political discussion on the internet. Tim Pool already has a lot of money. He probably has an island in mind that he could retire to, but listen, I'm still building up my fortune, okay? I'd like to keep going for a little while longer.
That would be a major step in reversing this trend. But that's only what? 4 years? What happens after this? Now, maybe the American people reject this mass lurch left. Maybe they'll vote, you know, for Trump.
Remember, he's talking about this after one Alabama military base immediately recalled 2 pages from a pamphlet. That's what led into this. This is Alex Jones tier, you know? This is 100% Alex Jones tier. Tim Pool might have well have, you know, turned his camera on and started talking about how he saw a Biden 2020 bumper sticker in a car that, cut him off in traffic, and rambled for 20 minutes about the end of white civilization.
But I'm looking at even the Republicans. They ain't getting anything done. They're agreeing with the left, the left cultural issues. Some people have said at least it buys time. Perhaps. Maybe that's the case. Right now.
I can't believe people think he's a liberal. He's literally saying the Republican Party isn't far right enough. This dude would be wearing a fucking swastika if he thought it would make him a little bit more money. Easily. That's not, you can say that's hyperbole, but like, what am I supposed to take from somebody who talks this way?
You have your choice between center right with the Republicans and Trump or far left. And that's it. And even if you vote for Donald Trump because you think it will maybe pull these people back from the far left, I do not believe it will. I'm not saying that it's all over, perhaps, but I think this country is headed to the left, and eventually we are going to be sucked into the black hole. The event horizon of the far left is fast approaching, and we have very little time to actually reverse course and try and restore balance in this country. Section 230 reform, in my opinion, will be an important step in solving this problem.
I wonder if he has a video where he talks about what he thinks Section 230 reform would do, or if he's just like latching onto it because it's something Trump mentioned, then he doesn't actually know what it does. You know? Does he think reforming Section 230 would get rid of all of his internet critics? Like, this would get rid of him.
But I'll tell you what, I don't know what you expect of me. When we literally hear that the Army has an equity and inclusion agency, I mean,
he's so triggered by like the practical necessity of having a functional military. He's so upset by it.
Look at the U.S. Army Equity and Inclusion Agency. Well, there it is. The Army has created far left intersectionalism branches. That is a religion in the Army. They are there, upholding the good word of white fragility, white rage, and inclusion.
What the fuck?
And they're going to start pushing this fringe ideology. They've begun. With this email, they are pushing the line, and they will continue to do so. The fact that this is the big ask. They come out with this email and everyone goes, I can't believe they would say this. And I'm sitting here going, whoa. But why is there an equity and inclusion agency?
Is it fringe or is it unanimous? Is it far left or is it intersectionality, which has been like a staple of very, very basic progressivism for like 40 years?
Come on. Not too bad. You know, eventually they'll say, the email's fine. You can't say MAGA. Trump will lose. And there you go. But, you know, I don't know enough about the Army. Maybe this is a normal
We
thing.
know.
For a long time. Sure, fine, whatever.
We know, Tim. We know you don't know anything about the fucking military. Holy shit. You know what I would love to do? I would love to bring Tim Pool on, and I would love to have a fucking, like an officer from the military on, too. Just so the officer could yell at Tim Pool. Like, why the fuck do you think there's some far-left bullshit going on in our Office of Diversity and Inclusion? This is literally just to ensure we have the highest possible number of recruits. That would be so fucking funny. I would love to see like a conservative soldier being called a far left, progressive by Tim Pool. Seeing fucking shadows everywhere, this guy. Tim Pool is a lunatic. We're going to be covering a lot more of him. I had no idea how popular he was. What are the comments like? I've seen so many comments of people saying all lives matter is evidence of white supremacy. Yeah, true. As an Asian, I guess I'm considered a white supremacist because I agree with sane ideas. That's interesting, you using liberal identity politics to try and argue against identity politics. Diversity is literally a black supremacist euphemism, meaning less white, more black. That's literally all of it. This is literally anti-racism means anti-white. This is literally the Nazi slogan. Anti-racism means anti-white. This is a highly upvoted, or liked, I guess. Highly liked comment right there. They've infiltrated the army. The end is literally near. The end is literally near. A pamphlet with 2 pages. Got immediately recalled. When I was in, we were told we had a duty to be as apolitical as possible while in uniform because we represented and defended all Americans, even the ones we don't agree with. Wow. So you might want an office designed to make sure that you are, in fact, defending all Americans. Maybe it could be, well, it would be inclusive because all is pretty inclusive. So that'd be an office of inclusion. And since the additional goal is to ensure that a broad demographic of people can be pulled from to form the military, that'd be diversity and inclusion. Yeah, I'd hope they get on that. That'd be a really useful organization to have. Amazing how all these people hide behind the inclusivity shield and are anything but inclusive. This is a movement that excludes, harass, and cancels. So this is the tolerant left argument. God, these people are such NPCs. Time to kick out the generals? They don't have the loyalty of the fighting men anyway? What the fuck does this mean? Also, I'm pretty sure that your average career general in the military... Shut up. I'm pretty sure your average career general in the military is going to be significantly more conservative than your average soldier. What the fuck does this mean? No more generals? Look at what Shu said about this. True. Shu coming out with a sick-ass take. You're right, Tim. We gotta get rid of these crazy far-left, militant leftist radicals. We'll cut their budget. That'll show them. Cut their budget in half. Then they'll only still be the most well-funded military on Earth. Anti-racism has become the communism of the 21st century. This is, I can't stress this enough, this is literally neo-Nazi propaganda. These are literally this is literally anti-racism is Bolshevism. Like Marxist Bolshevism. This is literally like what Nazis have said. Somebody linked me something, but it's not loading. Mantra.awardspace.us. What does equity and inclusion have to do with fighting the enemy? Great question. You can get more soldiers that way. The fuck does that mean? What does having an HR department have to do with making computers? Well, I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with facilitating proper relations amongst your employees. Or soldiers, in any case. This is a depressing one to watch right before bed. Makes me feel like our country is on life support. Maybe it kind of is. I want to point out that as funny as it is to laugh at these literally deranged fucking maniacs who think that the whole world is falling into some sort of Bolshevik, fucking whirlpool, okay? As funny as it is to laugh at them, and it always is funny, it's important to remember these are the people who go ahead and shoot up black churches, and who go ahead and, shoot up Democratic conventions. These people are 100% being primed to kill. It's not going to be long before we see Tim Pool being listed in manifestos, especially after Trump loses in 2020. That's very, very easily, very 100%. I'm in a difficult position right now because I know for a fact that when people who like Tim Pool watch my content, they start laughing at me when I call Tim Pool a fascist because it's like, oh my God, you think Tim Pool is a fascist? You think everyone is a fascist? But it's impossible for me not to because Tim Pool is so obviously a fascist. Everything he does, everything he says, his comment sections are just reappropriated Nazi language being spit up to use culture war terminology rather than like traditional neo-Nazi terminology. It's so difficult for me not to use that language because fuck, what am I supposed to say? How am I not supposed to call Tim Pool a fascist? Tim Pool would be my dream debate. I would love to get him in here. Holy fuck. I would, oh God. Okay. We have to chill out.